I'm Teisha with Shalom TV's news update for Monday, April the 21st, 2014. At least 7 rockets were fired at Israel this morning from Gaza. One of the rockets landed in a residential area of the southern town of Sderot, causing light damage to some stores in the area and to the road, but no injuries were reported. The other rockets fell in open areas in Sderot as well as in the Shar HaNegev and Eshkol regional councils. Earlier this morning, in a separate incident, IDF forces also came under attack. The IDF reports that a rocket-propelled grenade was fired at Israeli troops from Gaza. The RPG was launched at an IDF patrol traveling in armored vehicles along the border fence with Gaza. There was no damage or injury reported there. The Israel Air Force retaliated for the attacks today, reportedly hitting 3 terror activity sites, 2 in the southern Gaza Strip and 1 in its center. In response to the escalation of attacks on Israel from Gaza, IDF spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner said it was the IDF's obligation to seek out and target those who wish to attack our civilians and soldiers and to eliminate their capabilities. Hamas rocket terrorism, he said, is an intolerable reality Israelis should not have to accept. Israeli newspaper Yediot Aharonot reported yesterday, citing unnamed Palestinian sources, that Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas suggested that he would consider dismantling the Palestinian Authority if peace efforts with Israel fail. Such a move would potentially cancel the 1993 Oslo Accords. The report comes amidst continued meetings between Israeli and Palestinian negotiators to try and extend peace talks beyond the fast-approaching April 29th deadline that was originally put into place this past summer by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry when talks restarted. The last meeting between Israeli and Palestinian negotiators and U.S. peace envoy and mediator Martin Indyk was said to have been held this past Friday with no real progress reported. The parties were set to meet again later this week after the end of the Passover holiday. And rival Palestinian groups Fatah and Hamas were said to be participating in talks this week aimed at reconciling the two groups. Senior Hamas leader Musa Abu Marzouk, who's based in Egypt, is in Gaza for the talks, meeting with Hamas leaders, including Hamas Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh today, ahead of a meeting with Fatah officials tomorrow. Palestinian news agency MAN said that the parties were looking to negotiate a deal that would reunite the two factions. Palestinians have been divided since 2007 when Hamas took control of the Gaza Strip. The two groups signed a reconciliation agreement back in 2011, but most of those clauses have not been implemented. Israel police were forced to close the entrance to the Temple Mount yesterday after more riots at the holy site. The site was about to be open to visitors yesterday morning when dozens of Arab youths started throwing rocks and fireworks at police stationed there. Police used crowd dispersal measures to control the situation. 2 border policemen were lightly injured. 24 people were arrested. The Israel Embassy in Thailand is asking authorities there to increase their security measures. The Bangkok Post reports that the embassy officially requested that Thai police beef up security in areas that are known as tourist hotspots, at least through the end of the Passover holiday, when many Israelis are traveling abroad. This follows the arrest of 2 suspects in Thailand last week, said to have ties to terror group Hezbollah. One of the suspects confessed to planning terror attacks against Israelis in the country, as we reported to you on Friday. Local media reports, however, today that authorities have yet to indict those 2 suspects due to a lack of direct evidence tying them to the alleged planned terror attacks. The U.S. Supreme Court will review the issue of listing Israel as place of birth for those Americans born in Jerusalem. The court said today that it will review a lower court ruling that struck down a 2002 law that authorized identifying Jerusalem as part of Israel on U.S. passports. The U.S. State Department allows passports to name Jerusalem as a place of birth, but no country name is included. In 2003, the parents of U.S. citizen Menachem Zivotofsky, who was born in Jerusalem in 2002, filed a lawsuit seeking to enforce the law passed by Congress in 2002, allowing their son's passport to state that he was born in Israel. In 2012, the issue reached the Supreme Court on whether it was a political one or one for the courts to decide. The court ruled that the case could proceed. In July of last year, a federal appeals court decision, though, ruled against the Jerusalem birthplace law. According to Reuters, oral arguments on the case and a decision are due in the court's next term, which starts this October and ends in June of next year. A synagogue in Ukraine was firebombed on Saturday. This according to a Chabad-affiliated website who said the synagogue located in the city of Nikolaev was hit with Molotov cocktails thrown at its door and window. The fire was put out by a passerby with a fire extinguisher. There was no one inside the synagogue at the time of the attack. The firebombing was condemned by Ukrainian Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk, who promised to apprehend and prosecute those responsible. The executive director of the American Jewish Committee, David Harris, lauded the quick condemnation by Ukraine. Harris is in Kiev leading a 5-member AJC delegation visit in the Ukrainian capital, taking part in meetings there with Jewish community leaders and also meeting with the Prime Minister. This is the second AJC fact-finding and solidarity visit to Kiev in the past 2 months. The 71st anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was observed in the Polish capital this weekend. Residents, including 200 members of Warsaw's Jewish community, gathered on Saturday to remember and pay tribute to the heroic act of Jewish resistance, which began on April the 19th of 1943. A commemorative ceremony took place at the Monument to the Ghetto Heroes in Warsaw, where officials laid wreaths and said prayers. The ceremony then continued as the crowds walked to Umschlagplatz Square, where Jews had been rounded up by the Nazis for deportation to the Treblinka death camp, where approximately 500,000 Jews were killed. The uprising was undertaken by about 700 Jews with no training and very little weapons, when it was clear to them that all of the Jews of the ghetto were being sent to their deaths. After several weeks, the revolt was crushed by the Nazis and most of the fighters were killed. However, the act of defiance remains a dramatic symbol of resistance during the Holocaust. And in our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Monday, April the 21st, Cantor Joseph Malavani talks about his participation in the 70th anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising ceremony and reflects upon the way in which Eastern European countries are seeking reconciliation after the Holocaust. That's coming up tonight at 6:30. Then at 7 o'clock, a Salute to Israel concert, a Shalom TV exclusive from Queens College's Lafrac Concert Hall, brings you an evening of Israel-themed orchestral and operatic music with cantors Sol Zim and Netanel Hirschtick, maestros Mordechai and Ophir Sobel, and the New York Philharmonic Symphony Orchestra. Then at 8:30, the opening of the Israeli Presidential Conference with a celebration of President Shimon Peres's 90th birthday with former President Bill Clinton and a performance by Barbra Streisand. And at 10:30, the Israeli Innovation Showcase from the recent AIPAC National Policy Conference. That's all coming up tonight here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Monday, April the 21st, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.